to Beauty in the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, and consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now, today's guest is very special. It's Dr. James Marotta of Marotta Plastic Surgery Specialists. Now, Dr. Marotta is a board-certified facial plastic surgeon in private practice for the last 15 years, and he's actually in Smithtown, New York, which I didn't exactly know where that was, but I thought it was upstate, but actually it's about 45 minutes outside of like New York or Great Neck. It's Long Island, if for all of those people who know their boroughs. Now, he attended Columbia University as well as SUNY Stony Brook School of Medicine, and he trained at Yale University in head and neck surgery. Now, Dr. Marotta then completed additional subspecialty training as a fellow in facial cosmetic and reconstructive surgery. He specializes in facial plastic surgery, endoscopic facial plastic surgery, rhinoplasty, as well as hair restoration. He's published several scientific articles and continues to conduct research and write medical manuscripts. Now, Dr. Marotta has consistently been named the best cosmetic surgeon on Long Island since 2013, and he volunteers his time and surgical expertise to the National Domestic Violence Project as well as Faces of Honor. So he helps the VAs. By the way, his practice purpose is to do good. I love that. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. So welcome to Beauty in the Biz, Dr. Marotta.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invitation, and I'm very happy to be here.
Absolutely. So can you just start us off by talking about your practice itself? Like, give us the journey of where you started and how you ended up in private practice, just some of those details so we can get a feel for what your practice is like.
Sure. I mean, you gave my background. I went to undergrad at Columbia. I wasn't intending to go to medical school. I just kind of, I was an economics and philosophy major as an undergrad, and then I did post-bac. I did some traveled abroad in Europe, and I just had an epiphany, said I want to be a doctor. Came back to the States and went to Columbia post-bac. And then SUNY Stony Brook for medical school, Yale for residency, and fellowship with Dr. Botella in facial plastics. And that was, a very formative year. And not only did I learn a lot about becoming a facial plastic surgeon and the surgery itself, but actually having Dr. Botella as an example of the quintessential facial plastic surgeon entrepreneur opened to my eyes to what it is to be actually an independent surgeon running a facial plastic surgery practice, and the really more the beauty of that, of being an independent provider, not only from the surgical perspective, but also being able to run your own business. And he was just a shining example of what you can do. And I said, I want to be just like him. And so when I graduated from fellowship, Vito said to me, he said, Jim, you can be an ENT, you can be surgery, but don't be both. Do one of them, And I picked being a facial plastic surgeon. So what did you do at that point? You had to find a job. So I looked for academic positions. I looked for private practice situations. Most of the hiring ability was in ENT groups. Of course, they wanted you to take some ENT call as well, and do some ENT sinus surgery. And I just wasn't into any of that. I said, you know what? I'm going to listen to Vito's advice and just be a facial plastic surgeon. So I, insanely enough, just decided I'm going to hang a shingle. This was 15 years ago. I got out an SBA loan, applied for myself, started with, patients, moved to where my wife is at. The reason I ended up in Long Island in Smithtown is my wife is actually from this local area for Comac. I went to medical school here, met her during medical school. She's an attorney, but not. And so then I just said, this is a good place to set up shop. It's a very populated area, and demographically did all my demographic studies, took out a loan, hung a nickel, and just started with myself and one employee and built it from the ground up. And here we are, at 25 employees and in a brand new building that's, 6-year-old building from, a place that was a rental to a self-owned surgery center with 2 ORs and multiple physicians at one point. Now we're in transition, getting more, another physician in here. But, just really kind of a big journey of growth over the years. So a lot to share about, the business, the
Good for
beauty of
you.
it,
Yeah. So
facial plastic surgery. Yeah.
so you're not from New York?
I'm from Westchester County, which is New York.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm from the other side of the Long Island town, so
Okay.
Port New York. So I met my wife, she said, "Well, we can move to where your parents are from, or where I'm from, and I'm the one who's going to raise the kids." So, I win. So,
All right. So
that's why I'm still married. You listen to your wife.
right? So when you started to practice, it's not like you knew anybody there. Like you're really fresh. By the way, how much
Right.
business sense did you get from that fellowship versus medical school? I mean, was that just imperative for your success to have had that year of role modeling somebody who's actually been there, done that?
Yeah, I don't think absolutely. I don't think I would have had the confidence, I don't know, in New York said chutzpah, to do something
Yeah.
like that. And just, looking back on it, it's really crazy. But when you have a model of somebody who's done it and been successful, you say, well, I could do that.
Right.
And
Right.
probably foolishly enough, I thought, yeah, I can do it. And, blood, sweat, tears, a lot of heartache, a lot of ups and downs, and you put in your time, and and you make it work. Just
Like,
by grit.
all right, so on the business side, what are some of the mistakes, just a couple of the mistakes you made that maybe could help others not make them? For example, keeping books or hiring somebody. Oh, any of that? Like, what was the most difficult part of running your own practice? Because I'm assuming you didn't know
Yeah,
like legal stuff or accounting stuff.
sure. I mean, I think that I mean, everybody who goes into this is certainly have the brains. I mean, you're obviously hugely intelligent people who can do the research, know the basics of accounting, get good advisors behind you. You listen to, it was grace to have, an accountant who's not only an accountant, but really my confidant and business advisor. Here we are, 15 years later and still, really one of my most trusted advisors and best friends.
Hmm.
And so I was lucky to find him very early on, and somebody you can just turn to and say, "Hey, is this, crazy, or am I, can I take this loan? Can I buy this piece of equipment? Can I hire this extra person? Can I do these things?" And just balancing it off him from a financial perspective. So yeah, I think one of the most important things to learn, especially as a surgeon, is we're really taught to be independent thinkers and to rely upon ourselves, our own hard work, our own skill, our own brains. And really, in the business world, it's the opposite. You want to seek out mentors, trusted advisors. You want to in one book it talked about, establishing your genius bar. I mean, people, who you go to, a collection of mentors, whether it's an attorney, a great attorney, a great accountant, a great, somebody who's done this before, somebody who's already a business mentor, a business leader, if it's not your fellowship director, but somebody else, your co-fellows, whoever has gone before you, and don't ever shy away from asking advice, mentorship along the way. That's one of probably the keys to doing that. And even I have to remind myself always now in practice, being 15 years, is that, even now I don't have all the answers. And as I'm trying, where I am at my stage in life and trying to scale and scale and scale, I've done tons of business courses and read so many business books, but I'm always learning about that part of it, and I still have a lot to learn, and never stop doing that, reaching out to people, find mentors. Don't be the rugged individualist that most surgeons think you need to be. That's good for being a surgeon, but it's not good for running a successful business.
So how was it when it got time to managing people? Because now you get to be the independent thinker, but you also get to be the manager, the visionary, the dishwasher.
Yeah.
You get to do all of it. So how do you
Yeah.
figure? There's an art to managing people, as you well know. How did you figure all of that out? And when did you know you couldn't do it all? Like, how do you get out of that and say, okay, I'm going to need some help here? But who
Yeah.
do I need? Do I need an operations manager? Do I just need a an assistant? Do I, there's so many
Right.
questions or pathways to go. Is there anything you could teach us there about how to scale?
Yeah. One of the business courses I took is, it's called Strategic Coach. And, Dan Sullivan's great, great course. You have to travel to do it. I used to travel every 3 months to Chicago. And do an independent seminar, and really a lot of people in different fields, in business and accounting, and most financial advisors, less on the healthcare side. But one of the things is Dan's thing is it's not how, it's who.
Mm-hmm.
Who can you get to do what you're doing today so that you can dedicate your time, abilities, functions on the things that you're best at. So we all can take an action inventory of your life. Like, what are you doing today that you don't necessarily need to be doing, that's not benefiting you or your practice? I mean, at one point I was sterilizing my own instruments. I was answering my own phone calls. I was sweeping my own OR floors. I had a secretary and me, and that was it. And I had an independent operating room. So I was doing my surgery, and then of course I needed a surgical assistant. That was a basic, and I had an anesthesiologist come in. But growing from there was, you need more people to answer the phones, and now you really can't do your own bookkeeping. That's not really a good function of my time. I should be seeing consults, doing surgeries, and now it's to the point where I have people doing marketing for me and independent, I have people doing the basics of some research for me. And I have, it's never about my unique ability in my role currently is to be the CEO and the visionary of the practice and to be the surgeon. And that's my two roles. And anytime I find myself drifting outside those things, it's who can I hire? How much do I have to pay them? How do I structure the job roles? How do I hold them accountable? How do I keep them, doing those things and making me more productive? Because I think that's the number one motivator for you as the individual. Yeah, it may seem daunting to say, you know what, I'm going to plunk down, another salary for this individual to do this, but think about how much time it's taking you to do all those individual tasks and how much you're taking away from your surgical practice, how much more revenue you can generate if you focus on the things that you're good at and delegate the things that you don't need to be doing. And that concept really is distilled in our entire leadership team. So people on my leadership team, I'm getting them to the point where I'm saying, you know what, look, you got to let go of, you're the CFO, but you got to let go of doing, basic bookkeeping. We have to hire a bookkeeper to do that. So you can focus on, financial vision as opposed to doing the day-to-day grunt work. And that's one of the keys to growth for everybody is to realize that you need to, have that leap, take and the investment you're making financially or in terms of time of teaching somebody else to do those functions that you don't need to be doing will pay off dividends, unbelievable dividends, because you'll be able to grow and scale at a much quicker rate. That was one of the epiphanies for me, was that to the degree I could delegate and to the degree I could get things off my plate and not do all the things I was doing, that was dictating the rate at which I would grow, and when I realized that, it was like, wow, not only is it great because you grow faster, but it's also great because you don't necessarily need to do the things that you don't like doing. So if you're, a surgeon, you're 5 years in practice and you're doing your own bookkeeping and you hate doing it, and it's a drain on your energy and your time, and you're going to see a consult and you don't have the energy to close that consult, well, get rid of the things you don't like doing today. And as I said, having the courage to make that financial time investment in another individual will pay huge dividends, and that's the key to growth.
Can I ask where injectables fit into this? You are a facial plastic surgeon. Some of them say, I don't want to do those, I just want to do surgery. Some say, I like doing injectables because it develops a relationship with the patient. What's your take on that?
Yeah. My take is, as I my practice has grown, and it's especially the surgical practice with post-COVID surging so much. I've had to add surgical days, and I'm more and more doing more surgery than ever, as opposed to injectables, and cutting down my injectable days. And I have nurse injectors in New York. You're allowed to do that. I'm on the cusp of hiring another physician who will also offload some of that injectable load for me. I'm at the point where I'm, probably going to start charging just an injectable minimum to see me, because it doesn't pay for me to take up any of my time to do, a single area Botox on a patient. We need to. So I think injectables, it depends on where your practice maturity is. Certainly at a point where you can generate the same amount of revenue yet delegate that to somebody else, if that's what you want to do. I think that'll work out fine if you want to focus on surgery. But if you don't have a successful injectable following that you developed as an individual, well, you're not going to be able to delegate that to anybody. So I think doing injectables on your own, always keeping it a little bit part of your practice, and also you have to oversee those individuals. So if you don't know what the newest, if you don't know what the newest injectable is, and what the G prime is, and what the areas of use are, and you can't really speak intelligently to your injectors if you don't have your hands in it. So I don't think I'll ever stop injecting totally. I think I'll just kind of it'll become less and less of a role, because yes, unique ability as a surgeon is to generate those surgical cases. And it could be a fluid thing. You don't let the business dictate to you, because other thing is you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into an area. I mean, I know, Catherine, you mentioned, just focusing on surgery, but I know a few years ago I heard somebody say, well, maybe I can make more money with the syringe than I can with the scalpel. And they went the opposite direction, becoming almost a not surgical doctor. And there's some facial plastics people who've done that. Mm-hmm. And me, that's the thing that would worry me more, because I think who knows how commoditized that's going to become, and who knows how technology is going to advance at the point where injectables become a non-issue. Whereas I don't think surgery is going to be replaced anytime soon. So it really depends on your individual life. But I think what I've realized, over the past few years is that the injectable pool of patients is not limited. It's not a limited pie. Mm-hmm. The more injectors you have, the more injectable patients you can have. Not, so me, I'm at the point where even though I'm hiring another physician who I'm going to give some injectable practice to. My injectable practice is not diminished as a result of delegating injectables to other providers. It's actually grown. The pie has grown. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to choose between giving it up or not giving it up. You can grow it on all cylinders, surgery and your non-surgical practice.
So let's talk about revenue generators, because I love that you're not the only one. In quite a few practices, that surgeon is the only revenue generator they have. So there's no going on vacation, there's no being sick, none of that. So you've done a very good job of scaling, bringing on other service providers. But what kinds of lessons have you learned, or missteps have you had bringing other physicians on board? Because you don't always play well together. So how's that going?
Yeah. I mean, we've, unfortunately in that department, I think, in terms of lessons learned, and that's really one of the toughest things about business, is that you can, make plans and then God laughs at you, so you can do what you think are all the right things. But we have a pretty stringent vetting process of hiring, and it applies to anybody we hire. And if you want a tip, there's a great book called The Who Method of Hiring by Jeff Smart. Mm-hmm. And it really is a very detailed process. Ours has grown from those basics, but 4 interviews, and people who are hired as administrative assistants or medical assistants are like, oh my God, I've been through an interview process like this. It's like, they can't believe the extent at which we, vet people prior to. So I want you to know we've done, certainly with hiring surgeons, that due diligence was multiplied, but you can't account for people's personalities. You can't account for people's focus. Can't account for how you're going to interact with them. And you're going to make some big mistakes. And we have, in the past few years, we've been through a few associates and they haven't really worked out for various reasons, which I won't go into. But, you'll never 100% know, and don't beat yourself up about that. That's what I'm really, because of course we do, you play Monday morning quarterback and say, how could I have known? Could I have vetted this person better? What mistakes did I make? What lessons did I learn? And at the end of the day, that's all you can do. And in the process, learn from it, grow from it, and just know that your business is going to go like this and this and this, up and down. And but hopefully, even though there's ups and downs, that line is going to be like this, in terms of growth, And you'll have your big setbacks, but if you don't, nothing ventured, nothing gained. You have to have that entrepreneurial spirit and say, you know what, everything we're doing is a learning opportunity, an opportunity to grow and become a better business person, a better surgeon. I mean, and some of it comes with big financial risk, a risk to reputation. So it's not to be done lightly, and I'm not making light of it. And saying it's all a panacea, because I've had a lot of heartache and a lot of pain and a lot of, just to be honest, and just regretted some of the decisions I made. But you can't really live in the past. Monday morning quarterback's not going to help you. You have to say, okay, I learned from that experience and get your running shoes on. Like, was Sniff and Scurry from Who Moved My Cheese? That's another good book, a little book about telling you how to not sit down, smell the moldy cheese, move on from those moldy cheese experiences, and just keep running as a business person. So
where do you even start, though, especially if you're looking for a specialty outside of yours? Do you put an ad in that medical society's newsletter? It's not like you can go to the conference and start telling people, I'm looking for another facial plastic surgeon. How do you even start that?
Yeah, I mean, depending on what, certainly there's a whole bevy of recruiters that you can use. There's, of course, are paid. They'll demand a fee depending on what, level. If it's a professional, it's going to be anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 for a hire. And if they work out, usually they have some kind of guarantee. So if they don't work out in a certain period of time, they'll get you resumes. It's not necessarily that they're great, always those top-notch candidates, but certainly that's a source. Now, Doximity has the Doximity Talent Finder, which through a paid service actually links to physicians more directly, so you can get your ad in front of physicians, or especially by focus geographic area. Certainly, Indeed. There's another website called mdsearch.com. There is then also just putting it out there. I put it out there on LinkedIn. A lot of plastic surgeons or dermatologists who are in my area are in that. You never know who's going to want to jump ship, get out of their own practice situation, or and do that. So all sources. I mean, you source from everywhere. For internal sourcing, like your own staff, and that is the biggest challenge of any. I don't care what, any business, staffing is the number one challenge. It's the biggest source of pain.
Yes, it is.
Probably what drives most people out of business. Just don't want to deal with people hiring, firing, and people's drama, and just saying, can you just come to work every day?
Can you just do your job?
Yeah, just and it just doesn't work that way, unfortunately. But building an internal referral system where you develop a place that's a great place to work. Ed Williams is another one of my mentors, and he always, was very proud of the fact they won the Better Business Bureau, top place to work in the local region in Albany. So he's right, though. When you have a reputation for being a great place to work, you attract top talent. People will want to work for you, and your employees become your best advocates for you. So if you have good employees in the method, who method of hiring, they'll call them A players. So if you have A players know other A players. Your best employees know people like them, and that's who you want to hire. And it may not necessarily be their friends. It may be people they work with in other practices, other situations. And so we have an employee recruiting program where we pay our employees if they refer somebody and we hire them and they end up working out for a certain period of time, we pay them a referral fee. And it's actually, it's much less than what a recruiter is going to cost you for that.
And it's a better quality referral any day. I would always start with your own staff. Who do you people know who would fit with our culture? They're not going to bring in some schlub because it's their credibility on the line. So I just think that's always the easiest way to go.
100%. And that is, an incentive program for them. And it sounds like you're, again, throwing around money, but it's much better spent. Every employee you hire and fire, costs you tens of thousands of dollars.
And the mental energy of that toxic person, it's just not even worth it. So talking about culture, I just want to mention something. When I was on your website, you have your mission statement where your purpose is to be good or do good, but you also had core values. Because I think that's the secret to a lot of the culture things. You need to have people on board who share your same values. And you literally write out your values. We are a patient-centric model. Attitude is everything. Commitment to care. And team players are A players. So you're literally telling everybody, this is how we roll here. If you can agree to that, you're in, or you're not, if you can't. Right. So is that how you have built what else have you done to build your culture? Because I think you've done a pretty good job with 25 staff.
Yeah. Those are really, those are the core, principles are obviously core purpose, core values. We have a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. And we have all these things posted and plastered all over the practice. We have them in digital format and and they come up in our meeting rhythms, and we meet constantly. We have weekly meetings, bi-weekly meetings. Nice. We have a monthly meeting. We just had a quarterly meeting this morning. This was our, close of our quarter, where we set priorities, for everybody for the quarter, what projects they're working on, and engage the entire staff. So beyond those. And you're right, absolutely. Core values are what we live by. It's what we try to guide our staff by. And it's also something that, if people don't buy into what you are as a company, they're not going to want to work for you. And we've had people, self-select out from the interview process and say, whoa, this is like too much for me. I'm out. This seems like a cult, And which is great, because you don't want somebody who doesn't share your core values, and you want to run your company in a way that speaks to your heart and speaks to the heart of the employees that work there. And so put it out there, use it in your lingo, have all your staff very familiar with it. We have programs and incentives around core values, around core purpose. Culture dictates action, and action dictates results. So if you don't think the corporate culture is important to your business, then I don't know how to convince you, but it is. Just believe it is. Corporate culture is, it sounds fluffy, it sounds like pie in the sky, but it really can solve that other problem that we talked about, the endless wheel of staffing and hiring and firing, and some guys roll that way. I mean, I know, a pretty well-known plastic surgeon, in my local area, who is on a constant treadmill of hiring and firing, and they don't care about that. That's the way they run their practice. But you can solve some of those frustrations by building a strong company culture, and ultimately, what do you want to do? You want to contribute to society and to the world as a whole. And to me, you give back to your patients as a surgeon every day. You've impacted so many people's lives, and sometimes you don't even appreciate that. But I can go home and also say, well, I impact the lives of 25 employees that I have, and make them happier, and then give them a good place to work, and have their have them provide for their families, and that gives me a sense of accomplishment beyond being a surgeon. That's the entrepreneurial part where it kind of feels good too.
Excellent. Well, let's switch gears now to marketing, because that's my favorite topic. I love business and I love marketing. For marketing, here's my new spin on demand. I think because of the way we're set up now in society, I really think plastic surgery has become an essential. It's shocking the surge of patients who have run in, like everybody I know throughout the United States is so booked. Almost everybody is booked with surgery. So I'm thinking either it's essential, or I've been asking them, what are the patients saying to you? And they're saying, oh, well, I work at home now, so I have downtime. All right, if that's true, then I never want to hear again, oh, it's all about price, it's all about price. Is it all about price? Apparently it was about downtime. So then I say, if that's true and you believe that, then you better start thinking about what can we do to delay or minimize the downtime. I'd spend more time on that than trying to figure out how to discount the surgery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think
that's my little take on that.
Yeah, that's a great insight. Really great insight. Yeah.
So what have you seen for the demand?
Well, yeah, I mean, we had ad surgical days and surgical.
That's crazy.
Solid, 2.5 months, it's 2.5 to 3 months to even get a consult for surgery. I had consult days. The demand is out of control. And certainly we had when we came back that month, we had a record revenue month by, a good 20% or so. It was insane. The backlog of patients, obviously.
Right.
But, the demand's been great, and that's what we're hearing. And I was just wondering how it played out in different parts of the country. We happen to be in a pretty affluent area where people have a lot of disposable income, and I think asking people how's it going with work. Well, I'm working from home, and no one's telling me, well, I lost my job.
Right.
I hear it from few people, but not as many as you would expect. So financially, that's the other part of the coin. That most people are saying. Yes, it's more because I have the downtime. I'm wearing a mask. I can get in and do this procedure now, and I'm just amazed at how many people are. Obviously, it's an essential purchase because with the prospects of the stock market dropping and industries laying off cadres of people, it's obviously they're not worried financially, and it's as important to them as anything because they're spending their money now in this uncertain financial times on, our luxury purchase, which obviously it's not, so, yeah.
So do you have a typical marketing plan that you normally follow? And do you stop it once you're busy? Do you keep it going? What's your marketing strategy?
Well, I have, our marketing strategy is like, all out, all in on everything. We do everything. We do, obviously, organic is big. Like if you look at my top, I looked it up for you because I knew we were going to have this discussion. Looked up top six referrals. His website, organic searches on Google and things like that. Then referred from sites like Real Self, Instagram, Facebook posts, social media to our website. That's number one. Mm-hmm. Second, referred by a patient. Yeah. So word of mouth and patient referrals is still huge. Third is like form fills from the website, which are driven by content that we generate. Mm-hmm. So we have marketing. I have a marketing director, and she's in-house. We have a couple staff who double as admins or patient care coordinators and also have part-time in marketing. So like maybe a department of three people who are just in-house working on marketing. And then we have partnerships with outside marketing firms. So, and they do, between that. And then what's become big is really, I always find it annoying when I go to websites, but that chatbot feature, how can I help you? Mm-hmm. We have one of those now, and that was a huge success, and we did that during COVID. Mm-hmm. And I always thought that was crazy; it would never work, but that's actually now number 5 on the list, so that's huge. And then there's, not to give any, there's an online imaging company that, we have in-house imaging that we have, cameras and we have Vectra 3D modeling, but having the ability to somebody take the picture online and then, send you their image, that's been a huge marketing, new marketing referral source. So, and then we're social media, savvy, and we have everybody, the whole practice engaged in social media. Our marketing director puts out social media content, but then all the providers do. Anybody who's doing an injectable treatment, or the medical assistants will get video testimonials or social media content. And then we have use technology to get your team kind of working together. We use Microsoft Teams because I'm a Microsoft guy. And everybody collaborates in different teams on that stuff, so people can put up their whatever content they've obtained throughout the day right in this one drop area, and we get it out on social media and on the web and things like that. So it's engaging your whole team in marketing, and it becomes more fun too for them from the social media perspective. So,
are you doing TikTok yet?
No, I'm too TikTok. I'm not the big, I don't know what it is, but I'm not the biggest. If you had to rely upon me to do social media and to be the guy who's doing all the posts and things like that, it's not in my strong suit. So,
but the pearl here is you've delegated it to somebody. Somebody has to do it. It's just the way it's done today. So you either have to hire agencies to do it or hire staff to do it in-house. But the secret there is that you have to do it, and you have to be everywhere now. The content is king. It always has been, but now the content is not just king on your website. It's on Instagram and Facebook, and it's all over the place. And you've got a blog and have a podcast and blah blah blah. And it's just relentless. But that you just have to figure out, how do you enter this new competitive world? How are you going to do it? Are you going to outsource it? Are you going to bring it in but manage it? You've got to figure that out. The reason I'm mentioning TikTok, I'm frankly I'm not a big social media person. I know I do it, but begrudgingly. It just seems kind of silly to me. I don't have enough time to talk to you if we're doing IGTV and I have 20 seconds or something. It's just going so fast. I don't see how we're building relationships. And now TikTok is even faster, and now you have to dance. Like they're saying, I haven't been to TikTok, but my nephews and my niece are on it all the time, and watching them scroll, I thought I was scrolling fast on Instagram. Oh my God, they're like 4 times faster, and it's all fun. It's all dancing, everything's dancing, and video highlights going on, and things, and it's very fast paced. And I think, dear Lord, if this is where we're all heading, I don't see how we're going to bond with our audiences. I don't. I'm struggling with it, actually. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's not, to me, not a real human interaction, or it's not enough time. Yeah. It's just contributing to the attention deficit disorder that most people have.
All right. So let's talk about your new book, because I'm all about how do you differentiate yourself in a very saturated marketplace. And I did a podcast on write a book. It will immediately pull you out of the fray of people who haven't written a book. So tell me, what was that journey like? Because it's not easy to do it unless you figured out an easy way to do it.
Right. Yeah, no, it's not an easy process. I have a whiteboard where I put goals up on the board, and writing the book for patients was kind of like way in the background. And I just said, one day I was just staring up and I said, this year I want to do something big. If I can get like something big done, like Kiss the Frog, the big thing done, then the other things on the whiteboard will seem easy. So I picked writing the book this year, and that's definitely a labor of, I don't know, not love, that's for sure. But I mean, again, with the theme of going with people who know what they're doing and mentorship, there's whole different ways of the book. You're not going to sit down and write a book and publish it and do that all yourself. There's you can self-publish. There's a whole host of companies which will help you do that. You can get a ghostwriter. I didn't do it. I wrote the book myself.
Well,
You can do some hybrid of that where, you write it and it gets edited by somebody else, and then et cetera. So you're going to look for, there's a huge number of companies which will help you write a book. So, and you're going to have to make an investment to do that. My, differentiating myself and really, as you kind of seen from our core values, core purpose, all that, it's all about, to me, it's always about core customer. How do you put yourselves in the shoes of your patient or your customer and appeal to them? And so I wrote my book more from the perspective of patients than from the perspective of being a physician. And one of the things I always heard from, and I continue to hear on a daily basis, was, mostly, from older patients, they're kind of like, they always have this level of guilt, like, why am I doing this to myself? Why do I spend so much money on this? Am I vain? Am I, why would I go through this surgery, or why would I go through repetitive needle injections? And then people with just heartbreaking stories. I did surgery. This was like maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And I did a surgery on this woman. Her whole family, like, basically disowned her. She was in tears in recovery, and it was just a horrible, heartbreaking, experience for her. And the guilt and shame and whole process that patients sometimes have to go through to justify why they want to change their appearance or look better to themselves or to their loved ones is just sometimes heartbreaking. And so my book is like almost a love letter to patients who go through the process of struggling with guilt and shame and thinking about it. And the title of my book is, you're not a vanity purchase. Don't feel bad about looking good. It's about the drive that people have, the biological drive, pretty much, to appear as healthy and vital as they possibly can, and to attract other people, not only obviously from a sexual perspective, but from a sociological perspective and psychological perspective. There's so many drivers to why, here in the midst of a national pandemic, the first place a patient's gone is my office.
Right.
And this book describes not only the journey and process that people go through and that pain, but also, what are the biological drivers, of that? What are the psychological drivers? What are the sociological drivers of that strong impetus to improve yourself? And why does guilt and shame and all culture exist in this country, as opposed to, and a lot more as opposed to countries abroad where plastic surgery is venerated and celebrated, and there's not this all kinds of puritanical notions of, oh, you're bad because you got some Botox, or you're bad because you had to change your face with surgery. And those notions still exist in America as much as people, talk about, oh, well, plastic surgery is no longer taboo, and there's still a huge taboo. Think about, as a facial plastic surgeon or dermatologist who's watching, how many of your patients say, oh yeah, I'll put me on Instagram and Facebook and, share my pictures with everybody? Like, next to zero. Mostly everybody wants medical records only. I don't want anybody to know I did this. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to, so there's still a great taboo around it. And so this book kind of explores all those issues.
Well, I think our industry should absolutely thank the Kardashians as well as the housewives. They have changed this dramatically. And the more that stigma diminishes, the more everyone's willing to talk about it, that guilt and shame are going away. And by the way, what I've learned in my own journey, I have so many different reasons, patients have so many different reasons for having cosmetic rejuvenation at certain times in their life. When you're younger, you're trying to add more, probably, like you didn't get something you wanted. But then as you get older, it's much more, I'm trying to buy some time here. Like the clock's ticking. It's like, whoa, what happened? And I think COVID helped with a big wake-up call. Our life, we have one life, and are we going to live it and enjoy it? Or so much emotion goes into this. That's why I feel for you surgeons. it's not about the surgery. It's a bit about the surgery, but it's the emotional journey of an aesthetic patient. Holy cow. It's nothing easy about that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So did the book come out yet?
Not yet. I'm in the final editing's completely done. We're preparing the images, and the publishing is going on now. So it's due to come out in January of 2021. So right in time for New Year's. So.
You did the hard part. This is now the best asset that you have. I call it an asset because you put in the tough work. How true is this? If you do something that nobody else does because it's a pain in the neck, that's the differentiator. That's what makes you bigger and better. So if you have that book, you've done the hard part, and now just market the heck out of it. I'm sure you've seen, yeah. I use my book. I'm like a slut with my book because, because I was the only one who had one for a really long time. And that thing has just catapulted my credibility, my image, all of it. Whoever puts in the time, that's a great asset. So please market it, because congratulations for you. I know it's
great advice. Thank you. I appreciate that advice coming from you.
Sure.
That's the key now. That's the next phase. So.
Yeah. So are you using any other? Well, I guess you don't do any events right now, huh? Like I don't know.
Yeah, no, we're not doing. No events. Because we have to kind of limit the exposure of patients coming. We don't have, the protocol that we have is we don't even have patients' loved ones coming into the office anymore.
Oh, right.
Just the patient individually. So big gatherings and things like that. Yeah, no, can't.
No
event.
All right.
We did a lot of virtual events and Zoom events.
Are they as good as? Are they okay?
Well, yeah, they're okay. I mean, we had some engagement. I think people were just shell shocked that they were home and people were furloughed, and so but they had time to we did some an Instagram Live. We did some a webinar. I think people did engage. It's not the same as in-person contact where people get to meet providers or see machines or see the facility. But they help. I was, in terms of for our marketing strategy, I know events can be hugely successful for certain practices. We were never really that big on hosting events. I did some when I first started in practice because I had the time, but then as I've gotten the practice maturity has gotten to level, it's almost like you're taking away from time where you can be generating revenue to host an event to try to generate more revenue. If I had, I just never, when you have, I think, vacancies or you have a way of generating buzz, or you need to because your marketing is not as efficient in other areas, then events might be the way to go. But I've never really been that big on events. Yeah.
I have one last question about marketing, and you would be the perfect person to answer this. A lot of the practices I consult with say, oh, by the way, I got a hair transplant machine or a hair restoration machine. And now what do I do with it? And I would have said, let's back up. Let's think about that, because in the reality of our industry, it's still 85% female who want cosmetic rejuvenation. If you throw in a whole new hair restoration angle, it's a new profit center, but it's also a new marketing channel, a new patient emotional state, wants, needs. How did you handle that? Because it's a whole different business. So can you just address that?
Yeah, it's a completely different animal. And in fact, from our perspective, we split off hair as a separate corporate entity because you want to know your P&Ls on your hair transplant practice versus your surgical practice versus your aesthetic practice, because one can eat into the other. You can think you're doing well in one area and you're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. So that's from an accounting perspective, that's important to do. But from a marketing standpoint, you're 95% as interested as women are in hair loss and concerned about it. 95% of your surgical practice is going to be hair transplants, is going to be male. And they have a whole different approach when it comes to, bringing them in and and, actually closing the deal with them. It's more about, transactional. It's more about, you're going to have to compete on cost more with them. They're going to want to see before and after results. The consult's going to be more brief. It's going to be more to the point. It's not going to be as touchy-feely. You may want to have a male, person doing
That's a good point.
the consultation, because they might be embarrassed with talk about hair loss with a female. So it's a whole different, although it seems attractive to get into, and then in this day and age, it becomes difficult to differentiate yourself because of the machines, right? So there's the robot, the artist robot. Do you spend $300,000 on a robot and then think that's going to bring in patients? Neograft, you don't have to be there, and you can delegate. It's just texts that come in from somewhere else. But how much are you involved in the process, and how can you differentiate yourself from some other practice providing hair transplant? It's something not to any machine. I always go into the mindset: the machine is not going to make money. It's the practice is going to make money, and we're going to make this machine successful. So if you don't have a plan to do that, then don't buy the machine. Because I've never had the experience, well, wow, I bought this machine and all these consults are coming from their, their pay-per-click directed advertising, and the machine is just, running itself and generating. No, it's a lease payment every month that you're plunking down, no matter whether you have a patient or not to use it. If you have the market in your current patient base for it, it's probably not a good idea to venture into.
For sure. And then let's talk now. It's been a while. We're going to wrap it up soon. Let's talk about mindset, because I love that. How did you start thinking like a businessman versus a surgeon? How did you make that shift?
I think we talked about it a little bit before. Was that transition from rugged individualism to team. It's not me. It's not I'm surgeon, I'm boss, I'm this. It's I'm part of a team, and I can harness collective abilities, talents, brain power of a team to create a business that's bigger than me. And I think that is the growth mindset, and then teaching yourself and others how to grow and let go and delegate, and such that exponentially your team's talents, abilities, etc. grow, and that's how you grow the business.
So did you always have that abundant mindset? Were you envisioning you having your own practice, your own building, lots of staff? Did you envision that?
No, I shouldn't say no. I shouldn't say I didn't envision that. It wasn't. I started from square one, which was okay, pay the bills.
Right.
Once the bills are paid, okay, well, maybe I should get like an esthetician and kind of situation going, because it feeds the surgery. And so I went from a 1,500 square foot rental space, and I rented the upstairs to 1,600 square feet, and then I hired more staff, and then grew out of that rental space, and then said, well, okay, now if I own the building and I'm paying a rental payment every month, why not pay it into equity so that when I retire, I can sell the building? And then I bought my own building. And so then it's become, okay, now, well, we're in this space and we need to fill it. So we have to hire more staff, and now it's, okay, well, here we are in this one practice location. Can we make more practice locations? Because, you can only do so much with your own two hands, and you have the potential and ability to grow a much larger business. It's not easy, and it doesn't come at a major price. But I think the dividends for me, have been, much greater than the price paid. At least I don't remember. And I find that in the world somehow, even though you're dealing with more moving parts and more people, becomes simpler and simpler the bigger the organization grows. Not more complex is what you would think, because you do have multiple people to rely on, multiple people doing different things that you were once doing. It was much more complicated when I was, the bookkeeper, the floor sweeper, the phone answerer, or the protocol writer. Now I have people if I have a clinical post-op instructions that don't seem to jive, that are 5 years old, and something says I want you to do this on day 5. Well, my nurses will notice that and rewrite the whole protocol and then put it on my desk, and I'll review it and say, check. I used to be the one doing all that stuff. Now it's self-managing team. That's the dream, to build yourself a self-managing team so that you could potentially walk away at some point and the practice is still generating revenue and doing well in your absence. That is the ultimate
That
goal.
is so true. If that's easier said than done, but I would think that would be the ultimate goal, is
Yeah.
to set up a system that you have peace of mind and clarity, and everyone's doing their thing, and you're overseeing. You're not doing.
Right.
You're leading. Good for you.
Yeah.
Last question. Tell us something we don't know about you that's pretty darn interesting.
I don't know if that's that interesting. I mean, I lived in Italy for a year.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, I lived in Germany for a year. I love traveling. I love culture. I speak both those languages. I can't wait to travel again. Can't wait till COVID's over. We were supposed to go to Africa on safari, and that got canceled. So, looking forward to broadening my horizons, learning about different cultures, and continuing to travel. So that's it.
I have Africa on my list too. That's far, far away.
I can't wait for that. It's gonna be great. I've heard it's phenomenal. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Marotta. I appreciate it. And
Thank you, Catherine.
If anyone wanted to get a hold of you, should they just go to LinkedIn or go to your website, Marotta? I think it's MarottaPlasticSurgery.com.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, sure. Send me a connection on LinkedIn. Right. You can message me on that. Totally fine.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, and with that, we will conclude Beauty in the Biz for this time. And if you would, please subscribe, give me a good review if you feel so inclined. And then if you've got any feedback or questions, please just leave me a message at my website at CatherineMaley.com, or you can always DM me at Instagram at Catherine Maley MBA. Thanks so much. See you next time.